want to learn more about risk assessment, well, watch this video. We're going to teach you about the discovery process, how to identify all the activities, products, services, and substances in your business so that you can identify the hazards and risks. Watch the video for more details. Hi, my name is Nicholas Graham, and welcome to the second series in our vlog on hazard identification and risk assessment. In this vlog, we're going to be looking at the discovery process and identifying the context of the organization. This is one of the fundamental steps in risk assessment because those activities, products, services, substances that you don't identify upfront are generally not going to be pulled through to the risk assessment. If you don't identify everything now, you're going to have a deficiency in your risk assessment. So this is generally something we take quite a lot of time with. So again, just to calibrate ourselves, remember that the risk assessment is a tool in your management system to help you to achieve the intended outcomes. The intended outcomes of your SHEC management system are the prevention of injury and ill health, prevention of pollution and environmental degradation, meeting your business and customer requirements, legal compliance and compliance to other requirements, and improved performance in the continual improvement of your management system. So in this vlog, we're going to be having a look at the context of the organization and what we refer to as the discovery process. So when you start off your risk assessment, you're going to want to identify your location, your geography, your weather patterns, the topography of where your site or your various sites are. What are the climatic conditions? Is it dry? Is it rainy? Do you experience floods? Are there tectonic plates? All of those are obviously going to or could result in hazard sources which are going to affect the intended outcome. Primarily, as part of your discovery process in the context of the organization, is you want to identify all of your activities. What is it? What are the products and services that your organization produces, and what are the activities that they utilize to create those products and services? What are the products and services that you create? Do those products and services result in hazards, either to yourself, to workers, to contractors, to visitors, or to your customers? What about your substances? You're going to need to put together a long and exhaustive list of all the hazardous chemical substances, dangerous goods, etc. that are either involved in your on-site activities or possibly through transportation. What about materials? What about your plant? What about your equipment? You're also going to need to consider your shift patterns. Do your workers work early in the mornings, late at night? Do they travel on roads? Do they travel at night? All of those could result in fatigue, and that's going to have to be considered as part of your risk assessment. What about your social, cultural, and political context of your organization? Many of these issues can also be the factors that draw health-related issues onto your site. Let's say there is a prevalence of drug or alcohol-related issues within the communities where you draw your workforce from. There's violence towards spouses, political unrest, xenophobic violence, whatever it may be. All of those are going to have a direct impact on your organization, to your SHEC performance, and also the intended outcome of your system. What about your contractors and suppliers? Identify who they are, and also your visitors. Who are those people that are going to be bringing hazard sources onto your premises? What about pre-existing conditions? Was your site previously used as a waste disposal site? You're also going to want to have a look at your neighbors and the surrounding areas. Is your factory or your premises next to a major hazardous installation? Is there an explosive factory next door, or somebody that produces hazardous chemical substances? All of those factors could influence your organization and its ability to achieve the intended outcome. So those are some of the things that we look at in terms of the context of the organization and discovery. Some of the input tools that you can utilize to garner this information would be organograms, site maps, aerial photographs, process maps, asset registers, to name but a few. So to carry on this vlog, we're going to take you through two of the tools that we utilize, one being the Discovery Register and the other one is the SHEC Context Register. This Context Register we utilize in a lot of our SHEC management systems, and it's a great document because it links clause 4, identifying the context of the organization, to then assessing the risks or the opportunities associated with these internal or external issues, and then draws it through to a management plan. So without further ado, let's go and have a look at the tools. One of the tools that we use during the discovery process is called the Discovery Register. This is a collaborative effort between us and the client to identify all of their activities, products, services, substances, so that we can help utilize that information to inform the development of the system. So generally we start off with what the physical locations of all the various different sites are. We ask the clients for site maps so we can have a look at the spatial orientation, if there's any adjacent buildings, rivers, etc. that we need to take cognizance of, and just be aware of the layout of the facilities. We obviously then utilize an aerial photograph to help us amplify that information. We then go on to asking the client about their shift patterns. Now, identifying shift patterns within a business is very important, especially from a risk assessment perspective, because we want to identify if people are working at night. Obviously, night work introduces the possibility of fatigue. Also, the Basic Conditions of Employment Act requires that if you have people who are working at night, you're required to do a night risk assessment. We then go through all the geographic areas and occupations, tasks and activities with the client. So as an example, here's a workshop, and the occupations within there are a boilermaker, a carpenter and a cleaner, and these are the various different pieces of equipment that those occupations would use. We confirm the facilities, toilets, canteens and kitchens, because we know that if they have food preparation areas, they're going to require specific hygiene risk assessments, and they also may require a certificate of acceptability. We ask the client to confirm any non-routine activities such as breakdowns and things that they would do on a non-routine fashion. We then confirm what some of the work environment stresses and biological agents could be on the site, so noise, lighting, ventilation, thermal stress, hazardous chemical substances, vibration, ergonomics, possible exposure to tuberculosis, staphylococcus in food preparation areas, or body fluids in the clinic. This is obviously all important from an occupational health and hygiene perspective. We then ask the client to provide us either with an asset register. We can then, in conjunction with the client, determine all the various different pieces of plant and equipment that they have, from bench grinders to lifting equipment and shears, etc. Obviously, all of this is essential to the risk assessment and then the development of the system as well. We ask the client to define some of their gardening activities. This regularly falls off the risk assessment, where you've got high-risk activities, lawnmower, chainsaws, weed eaters, brush cutters, which all could cause significant injury, which often don't appear on the risk assessment. We ask the client to provide us with a list of substances. So you can see they're using acetone and acetylene, etc. Obviously, we would then get the material safety data sheets for that, and then we would pull those through to the chemical risk assessment. We ask the client to provide us with information on their historic accident and incident or non-conformity trends, so that we've got an understanding of what are some of the activities, products, services, substances that are causing the issues within the organization. In conjunction with the client, we help them to identify some of the possible emergencies that could occur by virtue of the activities that they have on site. Now, just remember, all of this is a desktop exercise. We ask the client to then provide us with the types of contractors that they use. Obviously, contractors are bringing tools and equipment and substances onto your site, which is obviously going to influence the risk assessment as well. And something that is very important is to identify who the neighbors are. Who are the neighbors to your facility? Is it a chemical factory? Is it an airport, etc.? All of which are external risks which could obviously influence your management system. So there's a brief overview of a tool that we use to help an organization to identify all of their activities, products, services, substances, plant, and one of the additional tools that we utilize after having completed the discovery register is a process that we call risk prioritization. The purpose behind this is that we go through all the activities, products, services and substances, plant and equipment that were identified in the discovery register. This is a desktop exercise with the relevant role players within an organization. We identify the issues, we identify some of the key hazards and unwanted events. We then assess each one from an integrated perspective. So that one is the environmental impact for this activity, the liability impact, the financial impact, possible incident impact, business impact, and frequency of exposure. So you can see we've got an integrated assessment technique that we utilize for each activity, which gives us a pure risk rating, and then with management we gain an understanding of the level of controls that are implemented. Based on the outcome of that, we can then determine what further actions are required. So this is going to require a detailed task risk assessment and then a continuous risk assessment, and who some of the responsible parties are. The purpose of this entire process is to provide us with this risk profile. As you know, a risk assessment in any large organization can take months, if not years, to complete. Obviously, it's far more important when you're doing a risk assessment to start off with the most significant issues. If the process of doing the risk assessment is going to take you a year, you want to start off with the most significant issues and work your way down to what could be perceived as the less hazardous tasks. So this is the risk prioritization assessment. It's an assessment where we look at all the activities, products, services, and substances from the discovery register. We assess it from an integrated perspective. In a desktop exercise, identify what some of the existing controls are, determine what further actions are required, as in the level of detail of the risk assessment that's going to be required. It provides us with a project risk profile, and we then utilize this project risk profile to determine the sequence of doing the risk assessment. So this is just another quick tool that we use with management to help us to drive the risk assessment process.